Man, listen, there's a lot of misinformation out here, but there's one person who's legally hype who can make you believe the hype. And listen, there's a lot of things going on in the world. Let's start off with Blac Chyna. This court case so damn good, I would watch it on Lifetime with different actors.
I'm just like, E, pick this up. Like this, because y'all gonna have to pay her eventually, is what it sounded like around here. So she's suing the Kardashians, and she said, like, y'all got my show snatched up, you playing with my money. And it looks like they might be. So
really?
Yes.
I didn't think so. Like, of all the things that's been going on lately and all the stories that I hear, it's making Blac Chyna look really bad. So I thought she was like losing.
Well, that's something that the Kardashians are good at, right? Making everybody look bad in the media. But when you get to court and the receipts come out, it's a whole different story.
Ooh.
So apparently some receipts came out in the court that show text messages and emails where Kylie was like, go ahead and pull the show. Like, she's making us look bad. She's messing up the brand. Yes, she's messing up the brand. I'll film extra scenes so we can make up for pulling their show. Apparently Kim had went to the network and was like, okay, if y'all don't pull it, I just won't work for you guys anymore.
Well, and she tried in a situation where, okay, let's say you do have a brand and you feel like somebody's not necessarily repping it right, you kind of do have the right to say that, hey, this isn't good for our overall image. And then the picture that they've been painting of Blac Chyna as a psychologically unhinged person, because that's the big headlines that we see more so of than some of the smaller print. So you don't think this will have any weighing on the outcome?
That's not even what the case about, right?
Right. The case is not about how ghetto or toxic she is, right? The case is, did the Kardashians go to E and say, pull my show?
Yeah.
Right? Because they don't like me. For whatever reason, they don't like me. And did you mess with my bag? I got 2 kids I got to feed, right? I still got to take care of what I got to take care
kids,
of.
Girl.
Rob don't have a job. She makes more money than Rob.
I mean, I know she only got them 10 hours a week, right? But still, on those 10 hours, they still got to eat, right? But you cannot do that. And the thing about it is the Kardashians were not her employer, right? E was the employer. So you could go to somebody and be like, oh, I don't want you to mess with them no more. Like, pull their whole show.
It's giving, maybe that's why they went over to Hulu, because they hang things over the network's head, it seems, and enough was enough at some point.
That's what it sounds like, because apparently there's enough evidence to show that they did try to mess up her brand, or they basically had her show pull. On the other hand, though, there is testimony that like maybe they necessarily didn't have the actual green light for the show, right? It might be some little devil in the details in that situation. Like, okay, we got the green light, but it wasn't official. So that could be an issue as well. But what it looks like is that the Kardashians did what she said they did.
So
now, if you was to guesstimate how much money Blac Chyna could walk away with if this goes in her favor, what would you say?
It depends, right? So they could settle. It's very likely they could settle. But she's suing them for $100 million, and then I think she's also suing like Rob for another like $40 million or something for like abuse and assault and stuff like that. So depending on the actual evidence, right? Because what we're hearing from the Kardashians is a lot of hearsay. Right? Rob told me this. I heard this from here. Tyga told me this. It's a lot of pillow talk. It's not really, and that could be evidence, right? But there's not a lot of tangible evidence on their end. What Blac Chyna is coming with is emails, right? It's in writing. If you want something to be real, put it in writing. Right.
Now, I seen somewhere that Ryan Seacrest, the Kardashians were like trying to get his testimony thrown out. And I know he would be the creator of the show, one of the producers at least. Now, I don't understand, and you have to help me explain this. How is it able for a hearsay to be heard in court, but the actual people that had the right or the ability to green light the second season, they can silence them? And that's what the whole case is about?
So, I mean, if you're a good attorney, you're going to try to get evidence that's unfavorable to your client thrown out, right? One thing about it is, once the jury hears it, the jury hears it, right? As much as we tell them like, don't use that, right? We're human. We're not, most people who serve on a jury are not legally trained, right? So they don't have that disciplined mind to separate that type of information. And it also depends on whether or not the information that's given from the other people is relevant, right? So we may not need the big daddy in charge, right, to come actually testify if we have paperwork and emails, right? Or if what you're saying is just hearsay. So if hearsay is, if you didn't actually say that, right? You're bringing a testimony or something that was said outside of court, and you're trying to bring it in and be like, this is the truth. And I'm telling you this because it's the truth, right? You can't just do that. You got to have something to back it up. So if they could back it up, you can say what you want to say. But if you can't back up that information, you can't back up that testimony, it can be thrown out. It is up to the judge too. Like, it's discretionary.
That's weird though, because he was basically saying like he would want any show a second season, and that he was more so interested in also doing a show of Blac Chyna on her own. So to me, I look at it like, if the Kardashians are the ones getting sued, how can they say they don't want that heard in court if that works in Chyna's favor?
Well, because why would they want to say like, no, she wasn't going to get a second show. We didn't have nothing to do with her not getting a second show, right? That was it. That was E's decision, right? We didn't have any, we may have said our opinion, right? So just like Kim Kardashian is saying, well, I told them I wasn't going to film anymore because it was a hostile work environment, right? So you're going that back doorway to say like, no, that's not what we did. So that's why they would want to get that thrown out, because it looks like, oh, they were going to get a second show. Well, why did you change your mind about the second show?
Well, okay. Well, it looks like Blac Chyna isn't the only person walking around here with receipts, because they're trying to throw the ex-president behind bars behind some things he did. What you know about that?
So, okay. So boom. Big T, he decided he wasn't going to show up to a court subpoena. And the judge was like, you don't get to do that. So since you don't want to show up, we're gonna fine you $10,000 a day for every day that you don't show up. You cannot not show up if you get subpoenaed. Like, that is a whole crime. And I'm trying to figure out how we're so tough on crime until it comes to people like Big T. Like, you got to show up to testify. And if you don't want to show up to testify, now the question is, well, what are you hiding? What don't you want to say? Right. And how come your lawyers aren't able to prep you well enough to where maybe you don't have to tell on yourself? Right. Maybe
and how long can he do that?
Well, at this point, as long as he can afford the fine.
Really?
That's wild, because if some of us skip the court date, they're coming to bring us to court.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But you have to think, like, he was the former president. He has certain immunity, right? However, the issues that they are bringing him to court on are issues that occurred before he was actually even president, is my understanding.
Yikes.
On the other hand, though, if his attorneys are decent enough, they'll file something to be able to kind of stay the fees, or say like, give us some more time. We're trying to figure something out, right? There's always another way to go about it. But I think this goes to show that the court is like, we're not playing with you, Trump. Like, you gotta pull up, you know? Right. So we're gonna see how this plays out. Good luck.
If he was a gambling person, what is the likelihood of Trump seeing the inside of a prison cell even for a week, just long enough to get fondled?
I mean, no. If I was a gambling person, I'm not putting my money on it.
Me either.
Because what does it look like America putting a former president in prison? That's gonna mess up democracy.
He be setting everybody up across the way. Like, when I watch how he did Gaddafi, right? Like, you know, this guy was like the president of a country who had some very forward-thinking things and would go to the UN and tell the UN about themselves. He was trying to restructure the whole, like, you know, monetary system over there. Oh, and we didn't like that. Like, we savages over here, and we aided and abetted him to his death and armed the people that, you know, ousted him out of power. And it's just like, you know, what if the chickens came home to roost?
I think we know that America doesn't have that type of backbone, right? So we don't want to see that. And it's just not gonna, it's America, right? Like, we're supposed to be the golden child of the earth, right? So everybody's looking at us. I don't think that he's going to see prison, but what I do think is what they're trying to do is make sure that he can never run for political office ever again.
Ooh, hope not.
And to me, honestly, when you think about a person's mindset, that's probably worse than being in prison.
True, especially when you're a narcissist like him. Now, legally hype before you roll. What are 3 other things that we need to know, or a few other things that we need to know before we roll?
Yeah, no problem. So first things first, let's talk about Big Daddy Biden. Okay, he out here being a little student loan swindler, and I don't appreciate it because you swindled us out of this vote, and you ain't figured out how to help us with our student loan payments yet. So they dropped a new thing this week. Apparently, he's looking like he's trying to help us out. But when I read the paperwork, what it looks like is that they're revamping a program we already had in place because whoever was supposed to be watching over it wasn't doing their job. So we're not getting no help, but they're trying to figure it out. Next thing, we was talking about A$AP Rocky. And they ran up in his house. So apparently they found some weapons.
Woo!
Now, we don't know if it's the actual weapon at issue, right, for the incident that happened last year, but they did find a couple of guns. So we're going to see what's going on with that. See if
But you can have guns in your house just to protect yourself, can't you?
That's my whole thing. You can have guns in, right? Anybody can have guns in their house. And it's ASAP. Like, why would he not have guns in his house? The thing is, like, LAPD is not playing with him. They're doing ballistics tests on all the weapons and everything to see if they find the actual weapon. So far, it doesn't sound like they have. And it doesn't seem like there's actually any formal charges yet. But we're going to see how this play out.
Well, in a situation where, like, you know, someone was grazed, not necessarily shot, I mean, how much time could he be looking at if they could connect the dots to ASAP?
That's assault with a deadly weapon. I think it depends, right? But it could be anywhere 5 to 10 years. But then you think he's a celebrity. And that has a lot of influence sometimes if you can argue your case, like, well, why would we have him in jail like this? But I mean, they locked Meek Mills up, so you never know.
Damn. Well, yo, thank you so much for clearing up the mess and making sense of it all, man. Legally Hype, if people want to get at you, where do they go?
You go, I am Legally Hype. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all of that. Follow me. Check me out, Leader Hype.
And you know what? We need all the hustlers to throw, brain energy and good fortune at you, because we understand this is finals week. And I know it's a lot of pressure on you right now. So we're wishing you the best of luck. Catch these good vibes. We're throwing them at you. I know it looks like we're taking them away, but I'm throwing them. Throw them too, Lo. Don't.
Good luck, girl.
I know. Help me out, guys.
Good luck. I got you.
We are the Morning Hustle.